We left Punta del Este and made our way along the coast to Montevideo. And along the way we discovered that in Uruguay, like many South American countries, motorcycles don't have to pay tolls. The coast outside of Montevideo is lined with high-rise buildings. Clearly having a place with an ocean view is an important status symbol. But I've always wondered why, since the ocean generally doesn't change too much and is not that exciting to look at. Montevideo is a fairly large city, home to 1.3 million people, roughly about a third of the entire population of Uruguay. It's been quite a while since we visited a city of this size, and like many other parts of Uruguay, we found it to be pleasantly refreshing. We came into the city on Sunday and encountered almost no traffic. Instead of traffic, there were people dancing the tango in the plaza. We got to check out the world-famous Teatro Solís, which was very beautiful, and had Beethoven's head in the lobby. Which reminds me, does anybody know what Beethoven's favorite fruit was?
Banana!
Around nightfall we headed over to the neighborhood of Palermo, where every Sunday night they bring out the drums and proceed to seriously get down. They marched through their neighborhood playing their frenetic rhythm for more than an hour, which was quite impressive, especially considering the weight of their wooden drums. Eventually the drummers decided to take a break, and a highly skilled jazz band took over. We watched them play for more than an hour too. And by the end of it we were exhausted and ready for bed, but the neighborhood looked like the party was just getting started, and the drummers were warming up their drums around a fire, preparing to have another go at it. We also found a fountain completely covered in padlocks. The tradition of the love lock has greatly increased in popularity over the last decade, prompting some municipalities, like Montevideo, to create a place to put the locks, rather than on historic landmarks where they might do damage. Apparently, one historic bridge in Paris actually collapsed from the overwhelming weight of countless locks placed there by misguided lovers. Anyway, having gotten our fill of art and architecture and street food, we decided to head back to the country once again. We asked Estella if we could head back to her farm for a couple days since it was on the way, and thankfully she said yes. And on the way back to the farm I got it into my head that there might be a shortcut we could take, but it wasn't on my map. Still, I decided to try the road that I thought would take us to the farm of Estella and Walter anyway, and it turned out that yes, it did take us there, even though it wasn't on the map. And here again is just another reason why Uruguay is so awesome. Roads that don't even show up on the map here are better than the secondary and even some primary highways in Argentina and Peru and Bolivia. I know I'm kind of driving this whole Uruguay is awesome thing into the ground, but you haven't heard the last of it, so just get used to it. We spent our last couple of days in Uruguay enjoying the company of some of the cutest animals on the planet, and then reluctantly we made our way towards the border.
So again, crossing from Uruguay into Argentina, so fast and easy that I forgot to even film the start of the process. It took us about 10 minutes and we're good to go. So one last time, Uruguay, way to go, you're an awesome country.
And now we head back over the bridge to the land of unnecessary difficulties. After we left Uruguay, we headed to the outskirts of Buenos Aires. We had a workaway lined up just outside the city, and our plan was to work for a week or so, and then leave the motorcycle there and visit the city without the driving. Unfortunately, upon our arrival, we discovered that the workaway site was not all it had appeared to be on the website. The tiny property was semi-legally inhabited by a woman, her 5 dogs, and 3 cats. On top of that, there was limited running water and no sewage system, so you can probably imagine the place was kind of a disaster. Not wanting to live amongst the poop any longer than necessary, we immediately began looking for other options, which thankfully presented themselves very quickly.
So the population of the greater Buenos Aires area is around 13 million people. And we're about to go drive into that. Yay!
Right now, we are going there.
Lots of Argentinians warned us about how bad the traffic in Buenos Aires is, but we found it really wasn't that bad. Clearly they haven't driven in La Paz, or Lima, or Panama City, or Mexico City anytime recently. I mean, sure, the traffic was heavy at times, but I didn't find myself fearing for my life like I have in other cities. And fortunately for us, we didn't have to drive all the way into the city center, because our amazing new friend and fellow motorcycle rider, Gustavo, offered to let us park our motorcycle in his woodshop while we were visiting the city. And then we hopped on the nearest train and headed to downtown Buenos Aires, where we met up with a friend of Gabby's, whose name, coincidentally, is also Gabby. And Gabby is also from Ecuador, but she's living in Buenos Aires now, studying and working. And she generously offered to let us crash on her sofa bed for a few days while we explored the city.
So another very important thing that I've learned about Argentina is that there's an official exchange rate with the dollar and an unofficial one. And the official exchange rate is somewhere around 9.8 Argentine pesos for the dollar, and the unofficial exchange rate ranges from 10 to 15.1 pesos to the dollar. So needless to say, there's no reason to exchange at the official rate, because with the unofficial rate, called the blue dollar, you can get up to 50% more. The only problem is with the unofficial exchange rate, you have to wander around the city until you hear somebody
Cambio, cambio, cambio.
Exactly. They stand around and just say cambio, cambio, cambio all day. So it's pretty easy to find them. I'm not entirely sure of the legality of what they're doing, but yeah, that's the situation. So the other thing about the blue dollar is that you can't change money this way all over the country. We've only found the arbolitos, they're called, the money changers, in Salta and in Buenos Aires. In Salta, the price they gave us was 13 pesos to the dollar, and in Buenos Aires, they gave us 15.1 pesos to the dollar, which is a pretty large difference. So if you're planning to travel to Argentina, bring dollars with you and count on changing money in one of these two places, and you'll get a significantly better deal than in any bank or casa de cambio.
We got to visit Mafalda, which is kind of like finding Calvin and Hobbes in the middle of the city, and we got to take a tour of the historic frigate Sarmiento.
Pull all the levers! I feel like I'm definitely lacking something like this in my motorcycle toolkit. I found the captain's log.
Because white is such a boring color, Argentina's presidential palace is pink. And this is apparently the world's widest avenue. Who knew? I mean, it looks pretty wide, but widest in the world? I don't know. Anyway. In the botanical garden, I finally got to find out what yerba mate looks like. And although I've heard of a green roof before, this one was new to me. This is the first time I've actually seen a living wall. The suburbs of Buenos Aires actually spill over into the neighboring delta of the Rio Paraná. In the picturesque little delta neighborhoods, the buses are replaced by boats, and all of the houses sit on stilts because, well, flooding. Here there are no roads and no cars, and away from the main canals, not really even that many boats. As you can imagine, it's quite peaceful.
The public transportation here is great. The trains and the buses and the subways are all fast and smooth and on time, and there's one pass to rule them all. Excellent. So after experiencing the siesta-taking bundle of difficult that is the rest of Argentina, I didn't have really high hopes for Buenos Aires, but I have to say I've been, at least, how about you, pleasantly surprised?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah?
Everything's open here. Everything.
Things are open when you want to buy things, and the transportation is great, and compared with other Latin American cities, there's very little trash on the ground.
Yeah.
Things are clean. Traffic is, bad, but not that bad. There's things like art and parks and yeah.
Buenos Aires is very good.
Yeah. I've heard it described as the Paris of the South. I think that's a fairly fitting description. So they have a giant metal flower.
After a few days of luxurious city living, we headed back to Gustavo's workshop to retrieve the motorcycle and made our way back out of the city. And that's all for now. Thanks everyone for all your support and encouragement. An extra big thank you to Gabby, Gustavo, and Los Amigos de Motocicleta. If you have any questions or comments, please do let me know, and we'll see you all next time.